Ireland has the highest instance in Europe of child abuse. I experienced it myself, and I found his presence in Ireland, telling the young people of Ireland that he loved them, hilarious. At least when I studied the history, I found out that the people who were responsible for telling lies in the first place were the Vatican, who, through permitting the invasion of countries and the destruction and murder of entire races of people in the name of God and for money, and then their subsequent overtaking of the educational systems of all the countries that they went into, led to distortion of historical fact.
In 1992, activist and musician Sinead O'Connor did the unthinkable at the time.
In 1992, Sinead performed Bob Marley's War on Saturday Night Live, then proceeded to rip up a photo of Pope John Paul II on live TV, declaring, quote, "Fight the real enemy." The move, a protest against systemic child abuse in the Catholic Church, of which she was a survivor, provoked widespread uproar. She addressed her SNL performance days later during an interview with Entertainment.
And it was this, tearing up a photo of Pope John Paul II on Saturday Night Live. A week later, on that very same program, actor Joe Pesci said he would have smacked her, committing an act of DV, and the audience cheered it. When Bob Dylan hosted a show at Madison Square Garden for his birthday, O'Connor, after being introduced, was booed. The sheer irony, these are fans of protest songs. Hearing the jeers, Chris Christopherson would come back on stage, put his arm around her and say, "Don't let the bastards get you down." She'd reply, "I'm not down." And thus, she'd give a stunning a cappella version of War as the boo birds rang louder and louder. Moments after beginning, she'd leave the stage. Christopherson embraced her as she departed.
She's always had courage.
The backlash continued, however, from some in O'Connor's own industry. Madonna, who had controversy of her own with the Catholic Church, mocked O'Connor. Lee Crennis Moore would quote Madonna for the Democrat and Chronicle. "I think there's a better way to present her ideas, rather than ripping up an image that means a lot to other people." Crennis Moore would rebut, this from a woman whose name is synonymous with shock, and who once made a music video in which she rubbed a crucifix against her crotch.
Like a lot of the world, for a long time, I knew that her hair was shaved. I didn't necessarily know that that was something that she decided to do very early on in her career, before the release of her first album in '87. As really an act of defiance against the recording label who wanted to market her on her appearance rather than the strength of her music.
For all the scorn she received, there were some that backed her act. The Sinead Brigade tore up pictures of Pope John Paul II outside of St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan.
Stopping it there, and welcome to Mika Reaction Reviews. We're reacting to things on the internet, same day, same shirt, different video. And today we're reacting to a video description called "Musician Sends Hunting Message to Religious Demons" about Sinead O'Connor, who passed away in 2023. I'm learning something here because I knew who Sinead O'Connor was. I was familiar with some of her more popular music, and I was familiar with her polarizing stunt on SNL, ripping up the picture of the Pope. I didn't know why she did it. I didn't know the details of it because I was like, I don't know if I was even alive when she did it, or I was like a baby infant, and I knew she had a shaved head, but I also didn't know why she shaved her head. I think the media always just painted her as like a radical, like you know, an extreme radicalist or whatever. And probably maybe even today, Sinead O'Connor would be very much a progressive or on the left. I'm not really sure. The pendulum has swung, but I do think that Sinead O'Connor should be applauded for her bravery. I think the difference between a lot of musicians back in the 60s and the 70s and even the 80s, a lot of the times when they spoke up against the system, it was truly speaking up against the system and the institutions. It's kind of just how like journalism used to be for the people, by the people, and now they're against the people and for big government, and they're just a mouthpiece for whatever propaganda that they want to be said. I think now when musicians or actors sort of speak up, it's kind of like, it seems like they're being brave, but they're really not, because they're being brave in saying a thing that is safe to say, that whatever hashtag is going trendy, right? You can see a lot of actors who might be pro this, pro that now, but they don't talk about the things that they think that might get them fired or get them blacklisted or something like that. You know, people have the same joke with like the Rage Against the Machine. It's like now it's pro the machine. And Madonna speaking out against Sinead O'Connor is not that odd to me. People might seem like it's odd because she was like, well, she did stunts and she did things against the religious church. I think the way Madonna did it was accepted in the industry at the time because it was sexualized. Rubbing a crucifix across your crotch is sexualized, but just standing up there with a shaved head and trying to speak your piece and doing something that's really shocking and might actually ruin your career, I think there's a lot different. I think the way Madonna did it was safe, but it was saying something against maybe the church or blasphemy or whatever, but if she was doing it in a way that would be accepted in her industry, which again is overly sexualized, you seeing herself with a cross or something like that. So I'm not that surprised Madonna spoke up against it. I think that people getting upset about the Pope picture being ripped, I guess, is understandable, but also not understandable because he's the Pope. He's not God. He's not Jesus. He's not a saint. I don't think popes are considered a saint. He's a man. So you're crying over a picture of a man being ripped apart. You shouldn't worship and idolize any man, any person. Like, so if you are being that emotionally triggered by a picture being ripped of a human being, you might question who you are. What are you actually worshiping? Is it God, or is it the man in cloak? Is it the man of cloth, or whatever, priests and pastors? But as we know now that the Catholic Church did have a huge pedo problem, and I wouldn't be shocked if they still have a huge pedo problem. That does not mean that every Catholic and every priest and every religious person, everybody who goes to church are pedos or pro pedo or or protect pedos or anything like that. But most huge religious institution that has that amount of power and control over people usually has like seedy shit going on behind closed doors. Like every cult that's been revealed and every extreme religious institution has been revealed to have weird pedo and weird assault and stuff going on with children and women and boys. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's still not going on. And you can't sit there and pretend that the Pope had no idea that those things were going on. So for her to speak out against the Pope and for her to speak out against the harming of children, I think is a good thing. Now, I agree that maybe she could have done it in a better way, because I think unless you were fangirling or fanboying Sinead O'Connor, you simply just seeing her rip up the picture of the Pope, I wouldn't have understood what that meant in detail. I wouldn't have never really known what that meant in detail, because unless you follow her, you probably didn't understand where that was coming from or the full context of that. So she probably could have done it in a better way, but I'm glad that some of the information is being released now. But anyway, let's continue with the video. I'm not going to watch the entire video, so if you want to see the whole entire video, you have to go to that person's channel and watch the whole thing. If you've made it this far, can you please like, comment, and subscribe? Please donate to my PayPal so I can get a new camera battery, and you can super thanks. If you super thanks, I will mention your comment in the next video.
I knew that she tore up a photograph of the Pope on Saturday Night Live, but I didn't necessarily know that she was trying to draw attention to the crisis, the child abuse crisis in the Catholic Church, which we all now know was real.
At her shows, she took another stand, banning the United States national anthem from being played. Anthems being symbols of political patriot games, wrote Jeannie Reed.
Sometimes her message wasn't always heard, but she never stopped trying. And I think that's really the key takeaway, is that she never, ever, ever stopped trying. And it's not enough for us to now say that she was a brave warrior. We have to be brave warriors, and we have to have those conversations that she tried to spark from the very beginning of her career.
From the Post, her protest came at the height of her music career and more than a decade before the church's sexual abuse and cover-ups were widely acknowledged. The blowback from media, Catholics, fellow artists, Americans seemingly set her bright career ablaze, but not for O'Connor.
I think what's so important to understand about her is that what she did came out of great love of the church. And she said that in the recent documentary. She felt she had the right to fight this evil because of her love of the church. And she felt she had a contract with the Holy Spirit to speak out.
All right, that's it, guys. That's as far as I'm going to go. And as you just heard, she was right about her her stance and ripping up the picture, because he did know that the abuse of children was going on. And I think probably every pope before and after know if there's abuse going on. And I agree with Sinead O'Connor. If you really truly love a group or institution or religion or whatever, or person, if you really love them, you would not enable bad behavior unless you think that a behavior is good and you approve of it because you're probably participating in it yourself. But if you truly love someone, you'll call out the bad behavior because you want them to do better. And I do agree with her. If she's a part of the church, or she felt called by God or the Holy Spirit to speak out, then she should have done what she did. I like what she said. Is she said everybody wanted her to be a pop star or a pop singer, and she wasn't. She did protest songs, which was a lot back then in the 70s and 80s and the 60s, and I miss those days. Maybe we call them now conscious music, or maybe like Tom MacDonald political rap, where yeah, I'm not just this. I'm not just a rapper. I'm not just a singer. I have something to say, and I felt led to say it. And she didn't see it as a downfall. She didn't see it as the ending of her career. She saw it as I came and did what I needed to do. I put my words out there. I got my message across. Whether it fell on deaf ears at the moment, but now people are listening. I hope wherever Sinead O'Connor is, she's happy to see that. Again, you might not agree with all of her politics or everything she said. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the national anthem being played at basketball games or sports games. It is America. It's a national sport, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you have to admire her bravery.